Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Thursday, March 27th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in beautiful, historic downtown Lowell. And I'm coming to you today a little bit later than normal. We normally drop the Daily Pulse at noon, but wanted to do this show. I thought it was very important to do this show based on the developments over the last few days, last few months, for that matter, here in the city of Lowell. And that is a discussion with Lowell City Manager Tom Golden regarding the final resolution, divorce, whatever we want to call it.
Amicable separation
between the city of Lowell
That's right.
and Salapoli Companies over the Hamilton Canal parcel. I want to talk about what's next for that development and for all of Hamilton Canal. But there's a lot of questions out there. And frankly, there's a lot of people in Lowell who don't understand why the city made the deal it did, why you negotiated this deal, why a majority of the city council accepted this deal. And I want to give you an opportunity now that you're free to talk now, right? Executive session is?
I'm free to talk, yes. Other than going through multiple negotiations back and forth, ping pong, bang, back and forth, it's probably not worthy. It's not something that people will see. And then there was a second iteration, third iteration, fourth. I think there might have even been 5 iterations. But yes, trying to get to the end, trying to answer the questions that, yes, Lapoli Companies, we've amicably decided to part ways, and that Cabot & Forbes, CCF, which is a very well-known organization, is looking to fill those shoes and start this development.
All right, so we're going to talk about that. Actually, very rude of me. First, I welcome City Manager Golden.
Well, I was with the president, Madam President, for speaking today.
Oh, yeah, your Chamber of Commerce municipal breakfast.
Correct.
You were actually one of the city/town managers who showed up. There were a couple of empty seats at that rock.
A couple of problems around town. Yeah,
Draken and Bill Rickard didn't have their seats,
well,
right?
Bill Rickard doesn't have anybody right now, I don't think.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, that's a lot of good people that I know from Bill Rickard. A lot of really good people. But boy, that burn time out there is a little quicker than I anticipated.
Yeah, we'll get into the Hamilton Canal District and what happened with the city manager, and hopefully answer your questions. Answer a couple that I've got, because I share your disappointment for those of you out there who wanted to see something better. Let me just quickly thank our Daily Pulse sponsors. Of course, Ray Booten, licensed realtor, Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both of those states as well. Find them online at realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. WellPoint is the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. And a reminder, it's March 27th. Open enrollment for those insured under the GIC begins next Wednesday, April 2nd. If you're not already with WellPoint, do yourself a favor. Just look into their plans, ask questions, explore it. I think you might change your mind. If you're already with WellPoint and you want to check out some of the other options available to you, this is an opportunity to do so as well. So thank you to WellPoint. Thanks to Real Estate Ray Booten. We got a bunch of other sponsors I'll thank as well, but I want to kick off the discussion here with City Manager Tom Golden. Give me your summary on what finally transpired with the development of parcels 2, 3, 4, and 5, and kind of what your thoughts are now on how the process played out.
The process is always difficult. I've been in real estate for over 3 decades, or very close to 3 decades, I should say, not over, but very close to 3 decades. And the number one thing, there is this thought process that we feared litigation, and that's just simply not true. I think that our city solicitor, Corey Williams, has a staff. We're fully staffed. Solicitor Williams has done a fine job, a fabulous job. Just not too long ago, it was made the announcements when the Lowell High project and the Doctors Trust, we went to the mats on that, and we won. So that was a lot of money that was going to be the problem. We had no fear of litigation, not one bit. However, my experience, as well as the experience of the team that we have together, is you don't go into court unless you absolutely positively have to. A quick summary I can give you of somebody that's been in this business for a long time, if I could use Teddy, if I could use you as an example. This really isn't too much different than this. Teddy, you rent from me for $2,000. Does that sound fair? Are you agree with
Sure.
that? Great.
It's nice and cheap nowadays.
Yeah, sure. So, I want you to think of it this way. So one day you stop paying rent. Now I have to go to move you out. This is where the litigation starts. I've done this. I've been there. I've been an owner. I've been a property manager. By the time we finally get into court, trust me on this, and there will be an attorney, I'm sure, oh, you can do it quicker if you do it this way. But on average, you're talking 4, 5, 6 months or longer. So during litigation, just for an apartment, let's say it's 6 months long. So 6 times 2 is $12,000. $12,000, Teddy finally will have to move. Not going to be happy. The place could be potentially destroyed. It's going to cost me, these are actual numbers, $5,000, $10,000. So you're in around $20,000. That's if you go to litigate. That's just on one single unit, one apartment unit. You could be $20,000, and that is unmistakably, that's unbelievable. That's a real number. If you figure it out, and if I came to you prior to litigation and said, Teddy, why don't we talk this out? What is the problem? You tell me that you lost your job. You tell me that you're moving back. Teddy, how can I help you move? Now, this was going to sound cash for keys. Any realtor out there, any lawyer knows about this. Teddy, let me help you move your stuff. Teddy, let me help you get into your family's home. Teddy, let me help you get to your brother's, sisters, whomever's house. That is a better transaction. Yes, sometimes it costs money out of the pocket, but here's the situation. I get you out a month earlier, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, right? I only lose as a company $3,000. This is all real. The very next month, because we're on good terms, everything works out well, Lisa decides to move in. And now that asset, my asset, was a liability because you weren't paying your rent, is now back to being an asset. This land was a liability. There was no asset, right? We sold it. It didn't perform the way it was supposed to. We're not afraid to litigate it. It would have taken longer and longer and longer to litigate this. So the best thing to do, any attorney will tell you, not to litigate it, figure it out, stay out of the courts, because at the end of the day, you end up saving money. And my job in my private sector world was to make sure that an underperforming asset started to perform. Underperforming asset or a liability starts to perform. When it performs in a positive way, that's the bonus. And trying to negotiate this is extremely difficult. I would need 2 to 3 hours probably just to start touching upon it.
So let's try to get into that, hopefully less than 2 or 3 hours. But so Sal Lopoli made a deal in 2020.
Correct. So the discussion's before 2020, but finally it starts inked, it gets done. Sure.
And there's a lot of folks that would question the prior administration, City Manager Donahue, City Solicitor O'Connor, for drawing an LDA, a land disposition agreement, that seemed to be more favorable to Sal Lopoli than it was to the city. I have actually leveled the criticism there. I'm like, what were they thinking? As I look, 2020, what's going on in the world in 2020, right? It's COVID.
Correct.
So if I'm Sal Lopoli and I'm going to make a major investment, pay the city $2 million to buy properties and make a commitment of hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm going to probably want to put some wiggle room in there saying, look, I don't know what's going to happen with COVID. We were still locked down at the time these negotiations were taking place. We weren't allowed to go eat in restaurants.
You know that.
Yes. Yeah, you had to do takeout.
Sure.
And even into the winter of 2021, you had to wear masks and clothes at 9:30/10 o'clock. So I can understand why Sal Lopoli would make certain demands. And I can kind of understand why the city would say, okay, it's reasonable. Was that LDA reasonable?
I would never question the Donahue administration. Never. Because first of all, she's a friend, she's a hard worker, and they did exactly what you were saying. This is during a different time. In real estate, you have to be nimble. You have to move. And if anybody thinks that any developer is ever going to not put their best foot forward to try to get the most they can, you need to be in real estate. But the Donahue administration has made incredible decisions, excellent decisions throughout the past. All right. So could it have been stronger? Sure. But I bet you, if you have another person look at the LDA that I think is stronger, someone could say, well, you could have did this, you could have did that. You could do it provided both parties agree. And I am quite confident I know this for sure because she's a litigator. Right? Manager Donahue was a litigator, an excellent one, by the way. I'm sure she put things forward. There was a pushback. There's a give and take, or you do not get into an LDA. There has to be two parties in agreement at all times to move forward. And maybe I would venture to guess that it probably was the only thing we had going on at that time.
I don't think anybody was beating down the door. I know the manager had told me back before the Lowell deal that she was trying to entice Cummings, which to me is the gold standard in Massachusetts, North Shore commercial
I am glad
development.
you brought that up because I didn't
you
want
have
to.
told me
Yes.
as well. You have brought Cummings in to look at Hamilton Canal.
Manager Donahue introduced me to Cummings. Okay, and this is how high I regard her as one of the best. Truthfully, she introduced me to Cummings. Cummings, since you brought it up, it's a self-financed organization. Self-financed, no banks, nothing like that. They wouldn't do this deal. We went out. This administration went out furthermore, and hired a company, an organization that was involved in the Boston Redevelopment Authority. Friends that I've known from Boston. We brought those folks in, folks that are really smart, MIT, et cetera. They've tried to put this together to figure out if a tower could work. It cannot work. Follow that up with the fact that the commercial space here in the Greater Lowell area is at an all-time high vacancy at 17%. The Boston commercial space is equally high, 17, 18% vacant. And that's not including the subleases that are out there on the market. So, as I stated, most respect for Manager Donahue. I am confident she put the best piece together that she could at that time. And just like somebody else will be able to say, well, you could have got this, you could have got that. You have to be in the room negotiating, and both people have to agree, and that's the key.
Was the fatal moment when they were allowed to build the parking garage before doing anything on parcels 2 through 5?
That's another interesting piece. People talk about parking garages like... why would you do that? Like right now, HDIC parking garage, HCID, Hamilton Canal Innovation District parking garage. People complain that our parking enterprise fund is suffering. It's hobbled. It is. There's no question about it. Everybody knows that. There's no secret here. But once again, I credit the administration, the Donahue administration, for building it. Why? Because that's what you need to do. You need to have a place to park. So the Lowell company building it first, people think that they're making money. In real estate, in the experience I have, that's losing money. You could finance that thing. You could look at that, Teddy, and look at the numbers and say, that thing doesn't make money.
Right now, the garage isn't making money.
God, no, it's not making money. It probably costs $25, maybe $30 million to make, to build, okay? And somebody do the calculations, 30% at 7%, probably a 10-year fixed, probably amortized over 25 or 30 years. Put the numbers together and figure out how much. You go by there, it's empty.
By the way, you're talking finances with somebody who struggles to balance a checkbook, as a lot of the financial experts on social media probably
But
do.
let me get back. Let me get back to the positive, like the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. You have to do that first. I remember that a council did the wise thing with the early garage. Okay, the early garage, which is located at the bottom of Middlesex Street. Middlesex Street, Jackson. Yeah, you're right. It's both. And people criticized then Manager Cox for building it because it was empty. You have to build it before you build something else, right? People have to have a place to park. So today, people are saying it wasn't built big enough. So anyone building something like this has to really give this that breathing room. So I stand behind 100%. Building out Middlesex Street under the Cox administration, building out the Hamilton Canal Innovation District currently right now, which is it's tough, but things are coming under the Donahue administration. I would support the fact that the private Lowell companies built out Parcel 1, and it's not making money.
That's the garage.
Yeah, that's the garage. It is not making money, but you had to build it prior to building a commercial building, which is no longer viable.
Is that part of the sale? Because Sal Lowell is selling parcels 2 through 5. He will transfer them, I think was the legal language,
2, 3, 5, yeah.
to Creedence Clearwater Revival, as we're going to call them, CCR or CCF.
Cabot and Forbes.
Hey, can they sing?
I don't know.
Do they have a company band or something?
We've been talking to him, but I don't know if the singing.
So he's not. He's going to keep the garage.
That is a private transaction. This is another thing that we sold this. This is a private transaction. So what we could have done, and I know people want to say, let's fight, let's go into litigation and things of that nature. Once again, over almost 3 decades of experience, the council made the right decision. The council made the right decision not to litigate. Could we have won? I think we could have. But going into the world, not a lawyer, okay? Not a lawyer. I know many real estate attorneys, and some would, and it's always a toss of the coin. But most of the real estate attorneys that I've always talked to throughout my career, stay out of court. You never know what's going to happen. Let's face it this way. Let's look at it from this perspective. Let's say we throw it down and we're going to court. Okay, we're going to court and we want it all back. We only want 2, 3, 4, and 5 back. My first argument would have been, no, you get it all back, 1 through 5. Well, 1 already has debt on it of $25, $30 million. 2's not worth 2, 3, 4, and 5 is not worth what we sold it for. That's my property. I'll sit on it and wait.
Right. Could you have taken it back, clawed it back at no cost, or did you have to pay? Was there a provision in the previous LDA that says if he doesn't meet this benchmark by such day, we get it back for nothing? Or does it have to be negotiated?
It would have to be negotiated.
Okay, so you can't just take it away. Because when this all started to get really negative 6 to 8 months ago, when it became apparent that there were irreconcilable differences, I felt the attitude of the majority of the council was, he's gone. We're booting him. And there was a lot of public talk about that. And then all of a sudden, things got quiet.
Because once again, if the developer went in and pulled a permit today, that's going to last for another, I think it's 3 years. Go pull a permit. Go move some dirt around. Move some equipment. Say that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That's not helping the city. That's not going in the right direction. That's not going, so that's 3 years. And now, 3 years from now, we start litigation, potentially.
So yesterday when I had former Mayor Samaras on, I had received some information from a city councilor, and I want to read that for those who haven't seen that episode yet, because it's pertinent to what you just said. The project schedule, meaning the Salopoli project schedule, only had 3 milestones. And the one they missed was the start of construction. That was the 2023 deadline.
Correct.
Okay. We defaulted them. So the council defaulted.
Finally, after working with them.
Okay. But all they have to do is stick a shovel in the ground or pull a permit, because the contract says start construction.
Correct. What does that mean from a legal standpoint? I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. Does that really mean move dirt? Sure. Maybe. There's an argument there.
Pulling a permit, moving dirt. So that brings them to 2028 before they miss the next milestone.
Correct.
Okay. And if they then don't do they haven't finished the project by then, now you got to start litigation.
Correct.
How long does that litigation take? The information I received was 3 to 5 years. Is that accurate?
I would say so.
Is that what your solicitor was telling you?
Yes, 100%. Now, I want to remind everybody that this is the same solicitor that took on the big, scary firm, right, at the Doctor's Park. And they were looking for millions upon millions upon millions of dollars.
You mentioned you won that case, but you won the case at a higher cost than the $2.3 million that everybody thought was going to be in 2017.
Right.
So you won, but it still cost the taxpayers money, right?
Not additional money. They were looking for $5-6 million more. We ended up having to pay tens of thousands, 50,000. That was it. It was millions of dollars we're on the hook for. They came back and looking for millions of dollars. And
they wanted 11 million total.
It was crazy.
Right?
Yeah, it was crazy money. And you know something? So anyone that says, why didn't we do it? Why, the experience that, I have experience, like I told you, on individuals, on markets. Markets are nimble. You got to stay moving. This has been 20 years in the making. Something has to give. Something has to move. And in real estate, it's easy to say we could have done, you should have, could have, would have, but you have to have, mutual consent. 2 parties have to say, I want to build this. And when you start to put all the facts together, like a Cummings Foundation is essentially what they are. They come in, they sell, guys like that, they sell finance. They wouldn't touch this. If we did take it back, let's say after 3 years, we go to court and let's say we won. Let's say the judge ignores parcel 1 and says there's been no betterment, the betterment being a garage that's $25 million. Let's just say he ignores it and says buy back 2, 3, 4, and 5. We then have to put it back out to say who else is going to build this tower. And from what we're hearing from the experts, right, the experts that we've brought in, they're saying currently it's been current. It's been for quite some time. Commercial space isn't needed, and they don't know when it will be again. We can talk about Link, but there are other positive things going on. We still have 15, 16, and 17 going on. We have some discussion on one of them, and it's a commercial piece. But that discussion's been going on for 2 years.
We'll get there. So since the building that was approved the other night is the exact same design pretty much, right?
A little larger.
First floor commercial,
First floor guaranteed. And
4 floors of housing.
The council was very clear. This was one of these maybe 10,000, shall or may, right? This is a shall. And we also put in stipulations that you can have 10,000 square feet. Well, where the heck's it going to be? Is it going to be on the second floor? Is it going to be downstairs? No, it's going to be street side. It's a 10,000 square foot piece, which once again is a shall.
But Salopoli had expressed at that famous meeting where he addressed the council and said a lot of what you said. There's commercial vacancies, there's no desire, whatnot, and people got upset about that. But he had said that, well, if you really going to force me to, I'll do some commercial, was the word he used. Right. Could you have had Salopoli just build what ultimately is going to get built? Could he, and the follow-up, could he have built that?
He could have, but he wouldn't agree to the milestones. So
you tried?
Of course, yeah. But the milestones that we wanted to push, and the milestones such as the start date, the due diligence. There's another project that we currently have going on prior to the LDA, prior to an LDA. This is a separate deal, right? They've already done all their geotech. You got to remember, we're 2 steps in. So for people that have purchased a home, we're beyond the offer. We're in the purchase and sale. So that's kind of, if you want to look at it that way. So we're dealing with a situation that is in purchase and sale. It's like now you, Teddy, you're coming to buy my purchase and sale, which we renegotiated successfully. And this council did an excellent job pushing the administration to make sure that we had rock solid commitments as to how this was going to happen. I want to come back to financing in a moment, but when you think about starting a due diligence on all your geotech, that's got to be in 6 months. Your civil, your design development, which when you do your civil engineering and your design development, this is probably 60 to 70% design complete. That's in 10 months. Your local, all your state permits, there's a caveat in there if the state's not doing something they need to do or the city isn't giving permits. But that's 18 months from the start date, right? So when is that start date when this actually happens? So we're still hoping that CC and F, or you're going to get me to say it.
say it, CCR, say it.
But it's all predicated upon the effective date. So inside the agreement, it is from the effective date 6 months, from the effective date 10 months, from the effective date 18 months. There's a 1-year extension in there in the event of financing. Financing is going to be, and always has been, the biggest boogeyman, if you would, of any development, anybody doing anything, anybody moving. Yeah, but anybody moving in a single-family house, anybody trying to buy their first home, anybody trying to build a development with 270 units, financing is always going to completely play a role.
So when does CCF have to start? When do they have to finish by in the new LDA?
It would be 2 years with a 1-year extension, is because of the financing contingency there. So there'd be 3 years, and they would be done in under 7.
You said
2 to 6, 3 to 7.
You said in your negotiations, Salopoli wouldn't agree to the new milestones. No. What did he want?
As is. I'll get to.
He asked till 2028.
When I can get there, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make it happen. I mean, listen, I have nothing bad to say at all about Mr. Lopoli and Lopoli companies. Zero. Things didn't work out. It's okay. It's real estate. It's not personal. It's just it's a transaction. I've consulted in many transactions. I have talked to many people that have done far more transactions than I'll probably ever do in a lifetime. But it's not personal. It's just the business. But I'm looking at this as the way, and I think the council is too. I'm looking at it, if you can imagine, the way I looked at it from that small idea of an individual unit. Right? You litigate something like this, it quickly balloons to $25,000 for a small business. That's why you'll see a lot of people in court trying to move people along, trying to get them out. But I guarantee you that's costing, in some aspects, tens of thousands of dollars. Where if you work with people, work through the process, Teddy's on his way out. Lisa moves in, and it's a positive for ends up being a positive experience. The investor has the liability that is now turned into an asset. This is a liability until we move forward.
You let Sal Lopoli find his own buyer, his preferred buyer.
He was.
Why'd you do that?
Probably not. Let me just say this. I know that there are many people looking to buy. There are many people that were being spoken to. Why? Because the phone rings, right? So this just isn't, the golden child, if you would, that came out and said, I want to do this. Now, 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 and Forbes has been in my office on multiple times on other developments and other activities that they just came up short on something because they went against, Panos Construction or Golden Construction, whatever the case may be. So they're not unknown to me. They're not unknown to the city. They've been eager to come here on multiple occasions. And, it's like anything else. It comes up short. It came up short a couple of times, not because of lack of trying. They've been trying to work here in the city of Lowell for some time. There are, once again, other organizations that simply told the Lopoli companies, no. And that's, like I said, the only reason I can say that is because phones ring.
Okay.
People talk.
The other thing we've heard a couple of times is, well, we've got so much going on. Link is going on. Spillover. And boy, there was a little hint about spillover that I do want to get to before we wrap up. But the other one is Front Runner City.
Yes.
If you've got quote unquote billions with a capital B, Ryan Gilday, I have to say contractually, billions with a capital B. You've got billions.
Well, because people
coming
do
in.
say millions.
Why not wait it out? Do what you have to, and then in 5 years you've got your Front Runner City money, and why not do that?
Because something, this is a 10-year process, and we've talked about a 10-year process. The fact that we are even a front runner city, the fact that, people are like, there are so many people, and I don't understand this, and I really truly stay off social media. If you want me, please call my cell phone. I believe social media is really about happy birthday, here's my kids, I'll share some things from the city, the positive stuff. But there are so many people that some aspects, they want to see it fail. Front runner city. There's 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. There's 50 states in the United States. Lowell, Massachusetts was chosen. There were other people that tried to become a front runner city. We are the first front runner city. Myself and the mayor have been on multiple discussions. Yesterday was one of the latest, right? We're still working this process through. I'm hoping to have them here before September. I was hoping before May. But they're busy. They're flying around the world, but they're still committed to being here. So we've been waiting 2 decades to move something, right? We've been waiting 2 decades. The economy, the market, and quite frankly, the developers have spoken. Sometimes people don't want to hear it, right? You need to stay nimble. You need to move. We've had 2 master developers that have tried to do the same thing that we're doing now. We have to listen to what's going on. We have other abilities around the MBTA zoning that are something that could be successful for other businesses. We have Link coming in, the front runner city. I don't think the mayor and myself have worked so much on one thing in the past. It's only been since September. It's not like anybody's going to walk in and say, here's your B with the billions. There's processes that we're going through. And 7 of the councilors that were fortunate enough to go, they know that. They know how difficult this is going to be. But once again, I don't understand some of the, it'll never, like the Eeyore. Oh, this is never going to happen. This is just, but you know something? To bring a sports analogy, which you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You miss them all. But what this administration has been doing and what this council is doing is looking for creative ways to get things done. Nobody else in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts nor the country are talking about being a front runner city. And you know something? If this ends up imploding, well, you know what? It was a big waste of my time, big waste of the mayor's time. But you know something? We gave it a shot where other people don't even have a shot.
You just opened the door to it imploding. Is that a possibility?
Anything's possible. I mean, when you talk about
what would get in the way?
Probably I'd say the larger administration. Maybe something like that could happen, but I don't feel. You know something? You have to continue to move in a forward. This thing with 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 and Forbes, if rates go to 9% tomorrow, nobody's building anything. Nobody's building anything.
Well, rates are coming backwards.
We hope. What happens in the next month is only your guess and my guess. But you have to continue to push the administration, the council. This is about always being, and I'll get criticized for this. This is about always being half full and not half empty. Continue to push the positive forward. Continue to say that we're going to make it better tomorrow. And I really believe
That's
that.
the pom-poms. That's
the pom. Well, I saw the pom pom.
Do you want some of the golden pom-poms?
The golden pom poms.
Golden pom-poms?
But you know something? You know, when you walk into a restaurant, I'm trying to say from a restaurant's perspective, right? If you have somebody at the door saying, well, you're not going to like it here. This is miserable. The soup is cold. What are you going to do? But you know something? You walk into your restaurant, your sister who runs the show, and you know that.
Of course she does. Thank God.
Your dad. But there's always a warm, positive feeling about moving momentum. People want to be around positive momentum. The city of Lowell, because of this council, is moving in the right direction. There are just people that are naysayers that just, I think sometimes they don't want to see, they don't believe it. Right, and they just don't believe that.
You're saying what I say.
But why should anything positive happen to us? When what we should be talking about is continuing to push the city, continuing to push the culture, continuing to push. This is the best place to work. When I first got here, there was 88 openings or something like that. I think there might be 7. You know, because it's a good place to work. It's a good, positive place to work. They've got great restaurants. The downtown's clean. You know, horizontal construction's going. Vertical construction is extremely, extremely difficult. It's hard to build a single family, let alone 270 units.
All right. Chatting with Lowell City Manager Tom Golden. I'm going to give him a quick minute here to catch his breath. I want to talk about a couple of other components of what happened Tuesday night and what led up to it, but also what's coming next. Let me quickly thank our Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Booten, licensed realtor, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. Find them online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection in Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. That's a century of service to the community, and they have served the community very well behind the scenes as well. I'm dying to get him on here to talk a little bit about that. Thank you as well to the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in Greater Lowell through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has trusted since 1982 to insure their most valued assets. And last but certainly not least, the Massachusetts Pirates. Tomorrow night, the Pirates try to get on the winning track against the Quad City Steamrollers at the Tsongas Center. Later today, we'll be sending out, I've decided rather than give away one prize pack, like we had said to our audience there on the in-crowd, the subscribers to the Inside Lowell e-blast, I'm going to give away 2 packs because the response was so good. So 2 family 4 packs. Sit tight. We'll let the winners know who they are. Let's get back to Lowell City Manager Tom Golden. There was a lot of talk about tips and ties.
Tips and ties.
I want to talk about why they are necessary, but I also want to give you a chance to address some very common criticism I've seen on social media since it was announced that these new developers would get tips and ties. Mm-hmm. And that is the taxpayers are going to pick up this $11 million tab. That is the tax benefit that CCF is getting. That
$11 million never materialized. It's not there. It's not. It's what we're not collecting. So that point is yes. You'd be correct that we're not.
Correct.
You're not, but it's not taking $11 million out of the $575 million that we have.
So let me put it in a way that maybe folks can understand. As of today, as we sit here today, how much tax revenue are those parcels generating for the city of Lowell?
$8,000 to $9,000.
Because Salapoli purchased them.
Right, he purchased them.
When the city owned them, if you take them back from him, how much will it generate? How much has it generated in tax revenue since prior to Salapoli buying them from the city?
0. Anything that we own, we don't tax, right? But those parcels right now are probably anywhere between $8,000 to $9,000 per year.
So now, you've been getting basically 0.
With the exception of
the garage.
Which has a TIF, Yes. The garage has a 10-year TIF on it, which goes something to the effect of 80, 60, 40, etc.
Okay. So the taxpayers are not themselves paying anything extra other than what they could potentially save if and when these come on the rolls.
So in Cambridge, and I know I don't want to speak about other communities, but in Cambridge or in and around Boston, ties and tiffs aren't necessary. And one of the reasons
why
is simply the dollar figure. So here you're probably talking $2,500-ish, and I'll say $2,500 to $3,000-ish for rental for a rental of a 2-bedroom-ish. Where in Cambridge or Boston you're paying $5,500. It's just it doesn't cost any. If you're going to build 270 units, the only differentiating cost would be the cost of the land, right? Is a big one, but other than that, which is by the way major difference. You might be talking tens of millions of dollars.
The construction costs are close. As I have learned, whether you build something in Cambridge or in Lowell is almost identical.
It's almost identical
when you account for the land. The land is
you got to account for the land, and then in Boston, I know that they have a mandated piece. If it's remember, this is private development, not public.
Correct.
Right? So private development, even in private developers in Boston. Now I don't know about Boston, just Boston proper or Cambridge, but they may use all labor union. Right, so that could bring the cost up, which I'm not against and I don't think this council's against that either. This would be a good idea.
All the councilors basically acknowledged you need tiffs and ties to get this. The disagreement seemed to be over what this was going to be, and the disappointment over not getting a commercial tower.
That it's not a commercial tower. That
join the club.
That TD Bank didn't say. But once again, you open the door on Cummings, the Cummings organization. When an organization such as Cummings will not build on spec, meaning what that means is any real estate developer in single families or multifamilies or whatever, they can build a 20-unit building on spec. And they know that once they get their occupancy permits, there's a very high likelihood they're going to fill it. Right? That's spec. That's spec building. So the only things that you would have going on right now is and I say Wang because they're no longer here, but let's say a Wang Companies, not to divulge any other names, was to say come to Lowell, Massachusetts, wants to come to Lowell, Massachusetts. That would not be on spec. They'd be calling Panos Construction. Panos Construction, we want a 17-unit building. All businesses, all that's how that would happen. That is not happening in Massachusetts, quite frankly, anywhere that I know of right now, because this is not made in a vacuum. This is made in timeless discussions with people from the greater Boston area, not the greater Lowell area, the greater Boston area, to find out what is happening. What happens in Lowell is undoubtedly a spillover of what happens in Boston. And as I stated earlier in the podcast, we're looking at 17%. Boston's at 18% with subleases. What does that mean? Panos law firm, right? Had 100 people, has now had 50, so now they're going to lease out some space in Boston, Massachusetts. That's not including the sublease space. My guess would be, your commercial space in there is over 20%, and the argument's going to be, well, but it'll be better next time. It's been 2 decades. We need to get through that part. Yeah. The market has spoken. When I was actively working in real estate, many times we would sit down with a group of realtors and someone would say, I'm trying to sell this house anywhere USA. Boy, I have it on for $100 and it won't go anywhere. And everybody around the table, because it was always a younger realtor, they say, the market's telling you what it is worth. It's not worth 100. It would have gone by now. Financially, it's probably worth 90, 80. And sometimes when something sits on the market for too long, it becomes stale because people start asking questions. What's wrong with that? Why won't people go there? Now, just take that small single family, $100 that it was going to go for. It really should have been on the market for $89, not $100. People start asking questions, very difficult questions. That's the same thing if you want to extrapolate it to a larger parcel. I mean...
So when these TIFs, the garage, you said 10 years?
It's a 10-year TIF.
And the new the CCF properties?
The CCF TIF, the negotiation started at 20, went down to 18. Now that I can say this, I think I can say this, 20 to 18, and now it's 15.
So they've got a 15-year TIF.
Correct.
At that point, the city will generate $11 million or whatever that future value is of that property in tax revenue?
Correct. What we do is we hold it stagnant. because we don't know what the tax rate's going to be. So yes, you would equate that to $14.8 million, almost $15 million.
So long term, the city will see tax revenue.
Even on the short term. I mean, it depends on how you want to look at this. It's 11 to 3, right? If you want to look at the entire 15 years, yes, 11 million versus 3 million, right? You can look at that. You can look at it from the year's event, which if you want to flatten it out, the developer is getting at the end of the 15 year is getting a $750,000 assistance, while the taxpayer is getting 207 in the 210, I think it is, in the positive direction. And alarmingly, people are going to say, "Oh my God, we gave the store away," but you can't build it without doing a TIF or a tie. I think the TIF and the tie discussion has already. I think it's okay. I think people get it. I don't like it. I would like the entire piece, because if that were the case, but it's the alternative is we take it back. It gets $0. We fight somebody. It gets $8,000 a year until we figure this out. And litigation could go anywhere. I think we could win. But what are you winning when you litigate? What do you win? The fact that you get to say, currently right now, like we can say with the doctor's building, yeah, we won. We took it to the mat and we won. This isn't about winning and losing. This is about taking an underperforming asset, and the council sees this, taking an underperforming asset and moving it forward. Moving it forward so it's a positive piece of, one, our community, and two, the overall well-being of the city of Lowell.
Okay. And also the city will generate some tax revenue during those 15 years,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
5% on 1 year, 10%
and
the
then it
next
goes
year,
up,
or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you'll also be able to, you keep the value current though through what the value that it is today, or does the value also go up once the building is complete?
Increased the value by, I think it was 1.25% to be conservative. Values in the city of Lowell, and every taxpayer knows this right now. Values have gone anywhere from 10 to 14% on a yearly basis. It's been crazy. That, once again, gets into, that's not us doing it, that's the market, all right? So Ellen Bordeaux, who's an absolute dynamite part of the team, really understands this stuff. Her suggestion was that we raise this thing at 1.25% per year to stay conservative. So the monies that we're talking about actually could increase. But once again, it's not doing what we need it to do now. I mean, people are going by. We need disposable income. This is all market rate. Disposable income is going to assist our downtown. Disposable income, for those of that may not know this, is people that have additional money in their pocket. The city of Lowell has been fighting for years to get more disposable income in the downtown so that people can live here for 2, 3 years, 4 years, get married, don't get married, stay, buy a home, stay in the city, and spend money in restaurants and coffee shops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I've been preaching disposable income
but that's what this council's all about.
This is not a low income / affordable / subsidized, whatever you want to call it, housing project that CCF is going to build.
Correct. It's a market rate. But to that extent of what you just stated, we're in further negotiations with other mixed use, right? And so mixed use essentially is there will be people there, not in this particular piece, all market rate. So if the market rate for a 2-bedroom in the city of Lowell at the time of this built is $2,500, that's what they're going to be charging. Other developments that we're looking at, because we think it's all of the above. The attitude about housing is all the above. 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 110, right? Or whatever the numbers are. We are also looking at those options for another development. We have another developer coming in and discussing how we're going to be doing additional affordable home ownership, which is another way of saying, stop renting from me, stop renting from Teddy. The piece I'm thinking about in particular is Acre Crossing, right up the street, the old Jeanne d'Arc. So we're hoping very soon to strike a deal and move forward with a sister-type building, a building that looks just like that. And by the way, if it hasn't sold out, the affordable home ownership piece, which I don't know if there's been home ownership in that section of the city. I don't know when that's happened. There is now, though. And this council, this administration is going to continue to double down on more market rate, more affordable home ownership, while still keeping an eye on good, solid projects that give affordable rentals. And that's that 30-30-30 split, 33-33-33.
All right, let's talk about what comes next. I'm going to draw your attention to the screen here. This is a CCF, Cabot and Forbes.
Sure.
I'm told this is in Quincy. Minus the extra floor on the top there, is this similar to what we will see in Hamilton Canal?
I would expect that, but I mean, they need to go through historical, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not so sure, but that's something.
But if I go over there and I take a look at the two buildings that Wynn has built, or the Appleton Mills,
yes,
I'm going to see something similar, and but the first floor will be commercial.
Commercial, and once again, the parties and people are asking the question: why settle? Why do this? Why couldn't the former developer just do this? Because the former developer wasn't interested in what I would say are concrete milestones. Okay, but I need to continue to say this: financing is still a major piece. Financing will always be a piece. So if we're still sitting here in 2 years and there needs to be an extension of another year, it's because of the financing situation. You're not going to get anybody to invest in something to lose money. Just not going to happen.
Which is exactly what Marty Meehan said when he sat in here last and we talked about the progress of Link, and he said, right now we got to see what happens with interest rates before anybody can go forward.
That is correct. And the best part, the positive side about this is the people that are sitting on their hands, the municipalities that are sitting on their hands, the municipalities that aren't taking those shots, the other municipalities that aren't trying to bring people in, they're going to be behind the 8 ball, I guess, the proverbial 8 ball in years to come. This is really, truly predicated on financing from, this is today's world of 7% or 8%, depending on who you are and what you can borrow at.
Okay. Since we mentioned Link, the anchor tenant or the linchpin company that's coming in as part of the Link development is called Draper.
Right, and they have a building that's coming over by the Songus Arena, which we're working on. I'm very happy to talk about.
By the Songus Arena.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. One of the city councilors mentioned the word Draper. Now he, in a follow-up conversation I had, mentioned he's got a buddy named Scott Draper that was being referred to. I'm thinking Draper is in talks with the city. I have heard for a long time there was some kind of spillover. Companies were interested in the Link project and told there's no more room at the inn, but you can maybe find space here, and that they were kicking the tires on Hamilton Canal. I didn't realize one of those companies was Draper. I thought it was somebody that's not already part of Link.
I'm not at liberty to talk about anything that's in executive session. But
so it's not a done deal. You're still negotiating with.
We have 2 other major negotiations. Once again, it's a name that maybe.
You're negotiating with somebody.
We're negotiating with somebody. You can't.
What are you negotiating for? A commercial property, or another one of these, or a commercial property?
One of them is commercial, and the other one would be something similar to that.
Okay. Would it happen to look something like this? And by the way, coincidentally, I found this is Draper Labs building in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Giant lobby atrium, and it's attached to what looks like, I don't know, more office space on the side, or that may be a little too tall for my for the city of Lowell there, but that looks like it's all part of the same Draper facility in Cambridge. Is this what may be coming as part of these discussions? Is this what you are shooting for?
We're looking for to discuss with all of the players that are over in the Link. Some of the buildings will be very welcoming. Other parts of the building will be very secure. So I would hope they would look like that.
Secure. Draper does a lot of high-tech government NASA type work.
Possibly.
Were you aware of that?
You could look at
So security is very important. Sure. No, I've looked all over their website.
Yeah. No, but I would invite anyone to look at Draper. And very talented, very great company. I've had the ability to work very closely with Chancellor Chen, President Meehan, and the explosive opportunity. I've used this before, but the explosive opportunity in that 10-acre area would always welcome spillover. Because it's in executive session, I can't really talk about who we're talking, because it may come to fruition, it may not.
How much land is available now that we got 2 through 5 parcels done? How much square footage is available to develop from here on out?
Well, we still have parcels. I hope I get this right. I think it's parcels 10, 11, 14, 15, 10, 11, 15, 16, and 17. That's just within the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. There's a couple of other parcels that we have our eyes on that are close to the MBTA zone. I've been working very, very closely with the folks over at the LRTA. David does a fabulous job. Matter of fact, we were just having a discussion about some of their land, some land we have over in that area. There are other things that we're looking at to see what we could develop, and this really blends from either Link or Front Runner City. So it's kind of both. But I would have to say, without giving up the actual parcels at this point in time, we have some control, and I say some control, over probably 1, 2, 3, 4, another 4 properties. I've talked to folks who own a lot of land in and around the MBTA zone, as that blends into Link, and there's probably another 3 or 4 if they're interested right out of the gate. So we don't have a dozen pieces that are ready to roll, but once again, going back to the Front Runner City, this is a 10-year thing. This is a 10-year piece. Nobody walks in
10 years before anything starts,
No.
or 10 years before we've seen the end result of it. Is there an expiration date?
No, I think I think that from 2025, if you count as year 1 to 2035, there'll be a major. If you went away for 10 years, you'd come back and say, "Wow," and once again,
the hope.
Once again, the major piece is in real estate, and this has to do with Hamilton Canal Innovation District, HCID. It has to do with that. It has to do with all finance. It has to do with all, real estate. You have to stay nimble, and it's all about financing.
All right. I'll say Draper. You'll say you're not at liberty to discuss whatever it comes from these negotiations in the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. Can we shoot for just one of these, even if it's just the atrium-looking thing with a 3 or 4 star thing? That picture on the screen right now that folks are looking at, this screams innovation. With all due respect to CCF and anyone else, this has been done before in Lowell very well, but this screams Hamilton Canal Innovation District. If we can't get something like that, should we just go back to Hamilton Canal District? Drop the I.
What I am at liberty to say is that I think the 10 acres over in Link that we've been very involved with will blow your hair back. Some of the photos that I've seen, some of the atriums, some of the public space. Now,
something like that at Link?
In Link, yeah, I would say that. Yeah, maybe a little too tall on the second floor.
But we know for sure Draper's going in there.
Well, yeah.
So that you're at liberty to discuss.
Well, there are many other.
Lowell announced them.
Right, there are many other companies
Yes.
on top of Draper coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So that would take a laundry list of people. So,
Okay.
but there's a lot going on in the Link area, and once again, not really being at liberty to talk about it, but the spillover effect is very, very positive. But once again, as to quote President Meehan, all of this continues to happen due to financing. But if you don't stay nimble, if you don't stay ready to move, if you got to shift things. In the real estate world since 2000, when we first started this, I was in the legislature at the time. We had a master developer that came in, and quite frankly, I'll say it, cherry picked. I said it at the time. There's a lot of cherry picking going on, because if you allow anybody, they'll do the easy things first. I had a former manager from quite a few years ago. He said, "Tom, the only bad part is all the easy ones are done." So, I think that myself, Manager Donahue, and the managers prior are dealing with a lot of difficult parcels, and it is hard. It is difficult. Building a single-family house on one lot takes a year. Once you buy it, once you get it surveyed. So if that takes a year, a 270-unit building is going to take a couple of years.
Would any of these city managers along the way have been professional managers? I saw that critique resurrected the other day on social media, that the failure in Hamilton Canal to get that 14-story tower is because we have a bunch of elected officials padding their pension and not a professional manager.
I think very, very highly of Manager Lynch. Manager Lynch and I.
He's a professional manager.
Yes.
And
yes,
he had the same thing. He had the rug pulled out from under him at Hamilton Canal by a prior developer.
As is Manager Cohen, who I was just with this morning. I have a lot of respect for those folks, but from the real estate side, from my own perspective, I think that having, I've never built a building that is 270 units, but then they're different, but they're not, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. The negotiations, although different in a large scale situation and a small scale situation in real estate, quite frankly, aren't that much different. I didn't experience a lot of, I was used to it. It's not a big deal, right? Politics is personal, right? Real estate is not. Real estate is not.
It's business.
My job is to make sure this makes sense. I think it makes sense. I think the council wanted to listen to what I had to say. During those negotiations, everybody wants negotiations open. Negotiations are like making law. It's very, very messy and sloppy. And, I think, but at the end of the day, I think the city council charged me to do this, to get this job done. Anybody that says litigation is either going to tell you they're a litigator that has always won. My first question to them, did they take all the cases that came before them? Could we have won this? Yes, I do. What, is it 100%? Absolutely not. When we litigated with, once again, the doctor's office, right? Was I sure we were going to win? No, I was not sure we were going to win. Quite frankly, from the executive session, the council saw that. I was very anxious because it was millions of dollars it would have cost.
But you chose to fight.
But the council gave me the directive, talked to Solicitor Williams. We put the plan together. The solicitor does a fabulous job. And you know what? That solicitor, Giovanni Rose Baez, all of those folks, they won that case. They won that case because they're smart, independent people that know how to get the job done. And that's the team that we're trying to build. We're confident we could have won, but you know something? In the cases that I've been involved in real estate over the years, the one you always think is the most confident, you end up getting crushed. And at the end of the day, it just costs money. The only people that make money in litigation
the attorneys.
Are the attorneys.
There's
we miss opportunity.
Well, there's a school of thought. You're already paying the attorneys. They're already on salary.
That's what
Napoli would have to pay his attorneys.
And that's what I tell everybody that threatens to litigate us. I said, I have all of these attorneys and they get paid once a year. And they're already a fixed cost. Mm-hmm. So if that, not to be cocky or arrogant or anything like that, I truly feel that way. If we needed to go to litigation, we're not in fear of it. This team has really cleared up a lot of our litigation. They've done a fabulous job. They are hungry. They can eat it and keep going and keep going and keep going. This is not about fear of litigation. With the expert opinions that we have, that we've brought in, plus the experience that I think I have in real estate, we hired someone to tell us, can this stuff work? We trusted, and I say that with air quote, we trusted, but we verified. We verified all of this information to see if indeed we can do it. And the fact behind all of this is the glaring fact that right now in the greater Lowell area, you're at 17%. In the greater Boston area, 17 to 18 and only getting worse. Sit and wait. The market has spoken and has been talking to us for 20 years and we haven't been listening. Okay? And I think that it's time to do it. That's where I would say. We've halted any type of development and activity and movement, and we still have more land to go, so we'll be fine. I think this is the right thing to do. I think that I just think this is the right thing to do, and I think the council instructed me, and I think they're correct.
You may have just answered my question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
Is there a part of you that fears that you're going to look back in 10 years or 15 years, and with Link and Frontrunner City and whatever else the future holds for Lowell, that you're going to regret not holding out for something better than not fighting this battle? And I'll give the analogy that former Mayor Samaras gave yesterday, the parcel of land across from City Hall that burnt down, and they put a gas station there because they just wanted to put something there.
Right.
Do you worry about that?
Do you know something, though? But second guessing, right? We make decisions every single day. This is, I believe, with all my heart, this is the best decision to move the city forward. That's what I've been asked. But it's not just because I'm guessing. I really do believe with the experience that I have, right? The experience that we went out and got, and we're hearing all of the same things. Sure, if we want to sit there and say, there's the old bird in the hand type piece, I don't think we've been doing that at all. I think that we're aggressively marketing the city. Link wouldn't have happened without the city of Lowell. Link wouldn't be happening. You know, it's in process of happening. Going back to how we've treated people coming in, I'm very happy with the developers that are in here that talk about our concierge type service, where there is no baloney, no garbage going back and forth. We fix the problems that have come up. We get to yes consistently. Merrimack Street is going off very, very well. I would like to think that all of the other, even smaller developers are doing well and things are moving in the right direction. But that is, once again, I think everything is half full. If you portray a positive place to work, if you portray a positive place to be, people want to come to you. If you portray that everything is rotten and kind of like the Eeyore scenario, like, oh, wow, well, oh boy, then who's going to go in that restaurant, as we talked about earlier?
I prefer the Lilliputian from Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah.
It'll never work.
You'll never make it. So, I mean, get the pom-poms out, because that is, and some of these things will work. Some of them will not. But my job is to continue to push the agenda of the City Council. The City Council's agenda has been more affordable home ownership, more market rate. This is not happening by accident. If my fear, quite frankly, is if interest rates, let's go down 3%, that the interests that we have will say, the heck with this, we're going to Boston. Right? We have Boston developers coming in because I think they feel welcomed, to be honest with you, and not to knock Boston, but Boston's going through a really tough time right now with from the developing standpoint.
Strike while the iron is hot. You say that you're following the lead of the City Council, but ultimately the blame is going to go to you,
and that's fine
if this goes bad.
Correct.
And also, I do believe that they look to you for guidance, though.
Yeah,
you're not being. Were you forced into making a deal here that you didn't want to do?
No,
you negotiated this deal.
I did, and the best deal is to stay away from litigation. That is the absolute best deal. When you're pushed to the brink, and I hate to bring it up, but it's the most recent one. When you're pushed into litigation, i.e., the doctor's park, fine, we'll go. Let's go the distance. Let's go to the mat on this. And you know something? I think we proved it. We proved that this solicitor's office, headed by Solicitor Williams, proved to a lot of people that never pushed back this hard, we're going to win, and we did. Could we win here? Maybe. I feel strong. I feel good about it. But in my experience, it's been quite length of experience. I mean, you talk to a guy like Ray Booten, or and I shouldn't have brought up any names, but you talk to other people that have been in this business for a long time. The last thing in the world you want to do is litigate. When you litigate, we already said it, only one group of people makes money. And the cost or the opportunity is lost. And it could be lost for another 10 years. How about sitting here in 10 years from now and saying, boy, that building, that could have been this. That'd be 30 years of non-movement.
It'd still be vacant, right?
It'd be still vacant. Which I don't think that, I think this council is aggressive, and they've shown it. They've shown, once again, the doctor's park is the biggest piece. They were full tilt. We put a plan together. Solicitor Williams, and I have to give the assistant city manager, when I saw what we were doing and what we were putting together and asking the right questions and moving forward, we won that, not by luck. We could have lost it too.
I think it's also important to point out, because it's something I've dealt with, that when you get into litigation, then everything freezes.
That's right.
No developer comes into a project knowing that there is a threat of litigation hanging over that project. So if let's say somebody suggested to me, why don't the city just take it by eminent domain from Salapoli and then fight it out and pay in court and win like they did in the doctor's scoot? But that freezes the development. So because you could build they built the high school while that was in litigation.
But just think about this: 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now that this is practically over, and it's not over yet because the deal hasn't been inked on the other side, right?
CCF has not signed yet?
Well, I don't know. That's between those folks. But when CCF signs, they know that the concrete milestones that were put place, this is where this is going to have to roll to. But the first thing I would have done if I was on the other side is, I don't want 2, 3. You're right. You can have 2, 3, 4, and 5, but you have to take 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. People forget about 1. This is once again, when you get into litigious, when you get into, a litigation situation, this isn't nice. People are throwing it high and fast, right? I don't want 1 anymore because you took my right to make money at 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now this is not making money. You buy it from me. Now that 25 million goes to God knows what. So, you know, I'll stand to be corrected by any of the, you know, folks that are out there. Or I'm sure there's lawyers that could see this, but I'm not a lawyer, but I've been around long enough to know that when you get into litigation, it gets nasty. And quite frankly, I think this is the better way out of it. I think that, once again, the LDA, previous LDA, was a good LDA. You have to get two people to agree. I think this LDA, we've gotten two people to agree to a better LDA. That's all. A better LDA, better situation for the city that is still going to be backstopped by finance. Finance runs the game on all of this stuff. So this stuff goes from 7 to 8 to 9, and I think you're correct. I think you'll see rates come down. We're not in trouble. Lowell, Massachusetts is not in trouble. The state, the country will not be building. That's a problem.
All right. We'll end it right there. Lowell City Manager Golden.
Thank you.
I think if nothing else, agree, disagree, you've offered insight into why the decision was made and a little bit about how the negotiations played out.
Oh, if we could continue for hours on it. This is good. It's interesting stuff. It's difficult
Well,
stuff.
I think it's one of my frustrations with so much in executive session is people don't see this, and then the reactions come in afterwards, right or wrong, but they're not made with, full information. Then you start hearing things like, well, this is going to $11 million out of the taxpayers' pockets.
Once again, that's not...
That's the part that frustrates me.
Well, it frustrates me because it's true, but it's not true. Get me a builder, get me a developer that would build something like that and not take a TIF, a tie or a TIF, either way. Tie being for residential and TIF being for commercial. And then the answer to that, once again, we went out and got the information. Trusted, but we verified it, right? We pulled back we paid for this information. We verified the information that there isn't anybody to do this on a financial basis. I spoke to other people that are self-finances and that said absolutely positively not. So that just, I'm sure I'll be criticized on that portion of it too.
So you had somebody come out, experts in the field, tell you you're not getting your tower.
100%. That's 100%, because we were trying to find out if we had a potential, that portion of the litigation. If the litigation came back and said, he can build that, he just doesn't want to, trust me, we would have pushed that forward and said, well, we're going to fight that. My guy is smarter than your guy. They came back and said, you can't do this, right? The independent person that we had talked about earlier, the self-financing person, wouldn't do it. We take this thing back. Let's not forget, we have to put it back out as a tower. And to find out, nobody else would do it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever that may be. Some people want to wait. I don't think we need to. We have plenty of other buildable space that we can do things.
All right. Thank you so much, Manager Golden.
Thank you.
All right. That is Lowell City Manager Tom Golden joining us here on the Thursday edition of the Daily Pulse, the Thursday, March 27th edition. It's going to drop a little bit later than normal, as you probably know if you already went there at 12 o'clock looking for it. But I think it was an important discussion that was worth waiting for. Hopefully we all learned a little something, and let's all hope that they made the right decision and we can start to see some development there and some growth, because I do agree with the manager, 20 years is too long of having all those vacant properties. Tomorrow, Leslie Boner will join us here. We'll have a little fun. We'll get her bizarre take on this. Probably the Karen Reed trial as well. Always fun to have Leslie in studios. Till then, everybody stay safe, enjoy the day, and we'll catch you on the other side.